Welcome back. You're listening to Get Real with Bob and Stacy. You're joining us for our Leaders and Legends segment, and our guest is EJ Carrion, social entrepreneur and founder of Student Success Agency. Welcome to the show, EJ.
Thanks for having me.
I want to give everybody some background on EJ. As Bob mentioned, he is CEO and founder of Student Success Agency, and this is a firm that collaborates with high schools across the country, bringing innovative mobile mentoring to students through monthly one-on-one guidance on the college admission process and applying for scholarships. At the age of 28, EJ Carrion has presented at the White House as a social entrepreneur impacting student success and is currently on a 40-school speaking tour across the U.S. This sounds like an amazing program for students. How did you come up with the idea?
Yeah, well, thanks for the introduction, Stacy. And for me, it's really all around my own personal story. I was a first-generation college student, and so I was an average kid in high school, but I ended up applying to 30 different scholarships, and I got 3 back. One was like a $500 scholarship. The other one was like a $1,500 scholarship, but the last one was the Bill Gates Millennium Scholarship, which was a full ride scholarship to go whatever school you wanted to go to. And so what I learned on that process was school counselors are only available during school hours. You know, there's one counselor every 500 students. They already have a high caseload, but then there's a time restriction because they're only available during the day. When most of the time when I was working on those scholarships and what I learned with other students working on college stuff, it was after hours at like 7 p.m., 8 p.m. when their counselor was at home recharging, getting ready for the next day. And so to me, it hit me. It's like, if I'm able to call my DirecTV to fix my cable at any time or to call customer support, why can't I do that with my school? So I thought, hey, let's create a mobile support center for students so at any time, at anywhere, kids can receive guidance on college, their homework, their assignments, by talking to a near-peer mentor, so a college student who's kind of been in their shoes. So we have hundreds of agents all across the country who run our text mobile platform so that kids can receive guidance when they need it. And all that data goes back to the school, and it supports that overbooked counselor to make sure no student gets overlooked.
Wow. So I think as part of this, you have something called Gear Up Funding. What is that?
Yeah, no, so that's actually how we've so all of our schools to date use we have been able to impact students who I feel like I'm similar to. So that's the first generation at-risk communities. And so that is the funding that allows us to partner with high schools. It's the largest federal grant in the country where it supports schools to get more kids into college. And so these are schools that have very high caseloads and identified where some of these schools have one counselor every 1,800 students. And so we're able to partner with that grant to support those students who need it most.
So one thing that's cool about your program is that the mentors that are helping students get scholarships and get into college, those mentors, first of all, they're paid positions, but they're also students. Is that true? And how do you find a qualified person for that position?
Yeah. So, our goal is to try to make the best part-time job for college students or young people who are working on their own passions. So none of our mentors work full-time for us. It's a side hustle to either going to school or doing something that they really care about. So we have musicians, we have startup entrepreneurs, we have graduate students, and we've been able to really market through the top 150 schools, also our partnership with the Bill Gates Foundation, the Hispanic Scholarship Fund. We're able to identify top talent that way who wins those type of scholarships. And so and to us, we just want, what's really cool for using young people is it's just able to relate to students from a text message. When you're texting kids, and we're doing 1 million text messages every 6 months, you want people who are able to relate and connect with students that way. So, they're using emojis, they're using slang, all that stuff. So it builds in with that customer experience that we want the students to have. And so what we just really look for is, can you connect and be relatable with someone without ever meeting them in person? And have you gone through it yourself? So one of every 4 of our mentors got a full ride scholarship to go to school. About 90% of them receive some type of scholarship, and a lot of them kind of have similar stories to the students we serve.
I'm curious. My story is so similar to yours, although I'm much older. So going back like 27, 28 years ago, when I was applying to colleges, first of all, my family had no money. So I knew that if I wanted to go to college, I was going to have to figure out a way to pay for it. And back then, none of it could be applied through technology. I had to go to Boston Public Library. They had a whole wing that was dedicated to scholarships. And you basically had to pour through books and read through qualifications to determine if you qualified, and then you'd have to write letters. But literally it took a great deal of time. How much time does a kid need if somebody is planning on going to college, doesn't know how they're going to fund it? At what point should they start looking, and how much time should they have to allocate towards finding scholarships?
Yeah, no, so to me, it all comes down to strategy. I think we don't spend enough time on strategy with students. I mean, the average student only gets 38 minutes with their school counselor every year. And so what we see is students on our program gets 38 minutes a month. So they're able to receive exponential more time. However, I think you see a lot of that, like 9th and 10th grade, there's no time being spent. But I think if you're able to spend time 9th, 10th, and 11th grade, just kind of planning around and identifying what schools you're going to, what scholarships you're going to apply to, what are the necessary requirements, you can make a lot of and save yourself from a lot of mistakes that seniors make. Like, for instance, most schools out there have their scholarships online, and it shows exactly what you need to qualify. The problem is seniors look at those qualifications when they've already made their imprint on their resume. Like the GPA you have, the test score you have is already there. So, but if you're able to see that in 9th and 10th grade before you've made the mistake, before you took the test, you now can have kind of a direction. So for me, time depends on how early you start. I think if you're able to give yourself 30 minutes a month starting at 9th grade, you're going to be much better off than the senior who has to spend 5 hours a week, throughout the spring, just trying to catch up and complete all the scholarships out there. But we definitely see that in high caseloads of like when the FAFSA, which is a free application for federal student aid, like when that came out this October, we got a lot more texts, a lot more requests for help. And so what's cool for that, we are immediate for students, but we see the best advantage is when you start early.
Right. Okay, so couple of strategies. Number one, you say have a strategy, which many people, that in itself is probably something new and different when it comes to looking for scholarships and being ready. Number two, start early, 9th, 10th grade. You should be looking to see what the qualifications are so that you're prepared when you're actually applying for the scholarship.
Correct.
Any other tips for parents and students who are hoping to get like a full ride scholarship like you did through the Gates Foundation or any other scholarship?
Yeah. My advice would be, one, it's going to break down to this. The first thing I would do is identify the schools you want to go to, 5 to 10 of the schools you want to go to. And this is something you should do as early as 9th grade. And then what you should do is type that university into Google with the word admission statistics. Every school has the admission statistics of the freshman class they just admitted into their school. So it shows the average GPA, the average, their diversity, like what was actually all, like just the infographics of that group. And what you need to do is then measure your own resume to those students. And why I say do that by 9th grade is because before at 9th grade, you haven't made mistakes or you haven't even had your GPA averaged out yet. So like you can now see like, wow, in order to go to Stanford, I need to average, like I need to get a 30 on my ACT. I need to have a 3.87 GPA. And so what I would do is to see all that and then write all those admission statistics out so that every day you go to school, You have it in your locker. You have it next to your, like, while you're brushing your teeth, and you can now see the purpose of why your grades matter, why you need to be motivated to get the test, because then you could see it's based off the schools you want to go to. Now, if you're a senior who's doing this and you do the admission statistics, I always say you want to apply to 5 schools, and this is a common theme. Your statistics match with the admission statistics of that university, and then you want to apply to 2 dream schools where it's like, wow, I'm a little below average, and I might not get into those schools, but it doesn't. You should definitely apply to those schools because you just don't know based off your personal statements and what your essays you could still get into those. And then you want one safe school, so that's one where you know you're overqualified to get into that school. And I would say at least apply to those 5 schools. And then when you do that, the next thing I would do is look at scholarships. There's 3 types of scholarships I usually like to focus on. National scholarships, which is the big ones like Bill Gates Scholarship. Start with those first because they're usually bigger and they ask a lot out of you. But if you're able to start with those, then you're able to use those essays for a lot of the little ones. So I would start with the big ones. That's national. Then there's the local scholarships. Those are the ones around your area, which are a little smaller but less competitive. And then the next one is that college, the college department. You know, you're going to get a lot of your scholarships from the colleges you actually go to. You should know which schools give more money, and that's something that you are able to see on those admission statistics as well. Like how much money did the average kid get going to that school. And, you know, so for instance, I went to the University of Oklahoma, and I got a community service scholarship, and it was all based on about like for students who have, you know, put in X amount of community hours. And so, like, anyone could win that scholarship if they just were early enough to read that was the requirement, and then they could go and implement that into their high school career and win $2,500 or whatever a year as a part of just really putting in effort. What happens is kids wait till they get accepted to a school, and then they say, cool, let me see what kind of financial aid this school offers. After they get accepted. You need to do that so then you can start building a resume that fits those requirements.
Wow. So I know you're now on a 40-school speaking tour. What's the big questions that everyone's asking wherever you go?
Yeah, you know, it's been fun. I mean, we've been to Hawaii, to Minnesota, to Alabama. I'm heading to Philadelphia tomorrow. So it's been great, and been able to work with every different type of student, which is super awesome. But the most common theme I see is around how do you stay motivated? Is to me the biggest thing I see, and for me, I just think it's tough for kids to realize like, and like you have this one opportunity and like this one at bat, and I just think for students they need to see like these next 2 years, like if you're a junior or senior, like these next couple years could really exponentially make life easier for you or make it harder to get to where you want to go. And I just kind of tell students, like, you just got to find like what is your why. Like for me, I was a first generation college student. I knew all the work my parents did to get here. I wanted to be an example for my brother. Like those are things that I just think students need to find their why. So many kids feel like they're on the what, like, you know, what grades they need to get, what's their GPA, but like really they need to find like why do they wake up, why do they want to do all this stuff? Because you know, kids who go to college, the acceptance rate, but then once you get there, 1 of every 3 kids drops out their first semester of college, you know, and then like not a lot of people graduate on time. And to me, the people who actually do it, it all comes down, they have a distinct why and definition of what's their calling and purpose of doing this and investing that type of money. And so that's really what I kind of try to sit down with kids when they say, like, how do you stay motivated? I'm like, well, what do you care about? Like, you know, and what's going on in your life that can connect all of this short-term stuff you got to do to a much bigger picture.
Right. Wow.
And all the stuff you're talking about doing also plays into real life after you get out of college. The information you're giving them up front is going to help them throughout their lives.
Yeah, no, correct. It's something that I just think students, I mean, we're at a time where college is very expensive. We're at a time where more kids are asking, is college worth it? And that question is getting trickier and trickier every day with different types of students. And that's why I think with parents and students, the biggest thing you have to do is be transparent with one another, transparent on who you are, your goals. I always say there's a reason why the word parent is in the word transparent. It's because you have to have an authentic, genuine conversation with your kids to know what's best. Because here's the thing, is a lot of times you see kids go to college and, you know, it's common to change your major. It's common to add a 5th or 6th year. And people, for some reason, is okay with that. And I'm just against that, because being okay with your kid going 5th or 6th year for something they could have gotten 4 years, you just got to look at the amount of money and time you're wasting with adding a 5th and 6th year. When you add that 5th or 6th year, you're adding another time of tuition. So let's say it's another $30,000. Plus you're adding another 2 years where you're not working. So let's say you're making $50,000, you know, standard salary or something like that. You're $80,000 you're losing out every extra year you're in school. And so it becomes a 6-figure problem. And to me, that's just the, and then what happens is once you graduate, you got 6 months until you got to pay your debt back. And you know what? It takes a lot longer than 6 months to make your dreams possible. It takes most of the time 5 to 6 years. And so to me, I think a lot of kids aren't able to dream or chase things they really care about because they get stuck on not being strategic with college. And now they have this ball and chain that doesn't allow them to like go after the things they really want, and they get stuck. And that's the thing I don't want to see. And that really why I'm passionate about this is that we got to get a lot smarter. We just can't go to school and not think just because mom said so, just because this is the next step. We got to get really smart about it.
All right. EJ, our time is about up. Where can people find out more about Student Success Agency?
Yes, they can just go to studentsuccessagency.com, and that's where you can kind of see we have resources and just kind of things we also offer just around content and scholarships and things we catch up and know. So that's a place where you could definitely find out more.
Wow, great. That was EJ Carrion, founder and CEO of Student Success Agency. Thank you so much for joining us today, EJ.
Thanks, EJ. Guys. That's all for this edition of Get Real. Make sure you join us again next weekend for more.